What you are witnessing right now on your screens is what's left of the Gaza Strip. Just absolute dystopian nightmare that's been carried out by the Israeli government, by the Israeli military, with the help of the United States, with the use of US bombs. And as the world shifts its focus to the Israeli-led bloodshed in Lebanon or the war in Iran, Israel continues carrying out genocide in Gaza. That's just the fact on the ground, and they have no intention of letting up. So Azmi Abu Sharbri, who is a Palestinian who lives in a neighborhood east of Gaza City, told Dropsite News, quote, "The war has returned. Every day there are tens of martyrs and tens of wounded. It has returned, but without being announced. There's no coverage of Gaza. It is all about Iran and all about Lebanon, and Gaza is bombed every day and slaughtered every day." And one story that has brought Gaza back into people's attention is the unbelievable fatal shooting of a 7-month-old baby. So this video is really difficult. I wanna give you guys a warning before we show it to you, but first let me give you some context. So according to Dropsite News, 8-year-old Jad Suleiman was walking home from school in the Jabaliya refugee camp in northern Gaza on Monday when an Israeli airstrike hit. So this is actually a different story out of Gaza. We're gonna talk about what happened in the West Bank in just a minute. But in this case, a piece of shrapnel struck him in the neck, killing him instantly. Jad's father, Yosef Suleiman, was beyond grief. He wept uncontrollably as he bent over his son's lifeless body. He had removed his son's backpack and was clutching it to his chest. "My son is 8 years old. What was his crime? He was coming home from school. This is his bag. There's blood on it. This is his bag. This is his bag," he repeated, unable to continue. The boy's aunt also spoke to Dropsite News and said, "You leave your house not knowing whether you are going to return or whether you are going to die. There is blood in the streets. It's enough, enough. Where is the ceasefire people are talking about?" So what the West is laughably referring to as a ceasefire in Gaza has officially entered its 9th month, okay? And so since October 10th of 2025, when this ceasefire was agreed to, nearly 1,000 people have been slaughtered by the IDF in Gaza. Another 3,000 people have been wounded. More than 1,400 airstrikes have been carried out against Gaza, and there have been 1,200 shooting incidents. And you might be wondering, what is Israel bombing? They've already leveled Gaza. What are they targeting? In some cases, they're literally targeting tents. And it's just endless. It's endless, and the world has turned their attention away from it. May was the deadliest month in 2026 for Palestinians in Gaza, with at least 119 killed, including, of course, 19 children, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which noted an escalation in mass killings and assassinations that the Israeli occupation forces continue to perpetuate against Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. It's just horrific, Trita, and we're just talking about Gaza. The West Bank has been an absolute disaster as well, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened with that 7-month-old baby. But before we get to that, I'd love to hear your thoughts about what's happening in Gaza.
The person who gave that testimony is, of course, absolutely right. Gaza has completely fallen off, not just the headlines, but the political agenda as well. Essentially, it's been brushed aside. A fake ceasefire has been put in place, and the pressure that actually was reaching a certain point in Europe, for instance, to do something about it was evaded because of the Board of Peace, because of other initiatives that from the outset was very clear was not going to bring about any change. So for instance, a vote was about to be held within UEFA, which is the European Soccer Federation, to actually exclude Israel altogether. This would have been devastating for Israeli soccer because it's so subsidized by UEFA. But the votes were there for it, and the pressure was mounting back in September of last year to actually force a vote. But because of the announcement of a ceasefire, because of an announcement of later on that came about a Board of Peace, they managed to evade it. Israel is still in UEFA. It's going to be a disaster this year because they're going to be playing in Ireland and other places that are extremely negative to what the Israelis have done. But it's an example of how when the pressure actually is about to get to some place that actually can bring about certain change. And by the way, I do think that the Israel being kicked out of UEFA would have a significant impact because so far much of the Israeli public is under the sentiment that there really hasn't been much of a cost for them at all conducting this genocide and expanding the settlements and doing the pogroms in the West Bank. There really, frankly, has not been anything. Whereas something like this would be painful. And we do have that as an example in the South Africa apartheid case as well, in which surveys that were afterwards done amongst white South Africans, it was stunning to a lot of the people who were conducting the surveys that it turned out that it was the sports sanctions more than anything else that caused people in South Africa of the Boers or the white South Africans to turn against apartheid because that was felt in a much, much more direct way than the economic sanctions. Mm-hmm. So those sports actions actually can have a significant impact. But every time we've been close to being able to get some movement on that, there's been some sort of a measure made, a false measure ultimately that has taken all of that pressure away.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, what Trump did with this fake ceasefire was run interference. So Israel would be protected and people would be under the impression that everything's okay. We've now got a ceasefire in place and we're going to rebuild Gaza. And you're right. From the very beginning, it was very obvious that this was an empty gesture. Meant to not help the Palestinian people, not to rebuild Gaza, but to essentially move everyone's attention off of that story.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.